potential drivers that we feel like we need to also share with you at the next work session, and those are specific to the 2021 school year. And the first is that there's a particularly late Labor Day that year. Labor Day does fall on September 8th. The first day of school would be September 8th. Labor Day is September 7th. The end of the year impacts with a September 8th start date would be something that could potentially be a driver in this decision-making process. In 2021, we have an election and we have an inauguration. We haven't typically taken election day off, but we do take inauguration day off, so that's another day of instruction that's lost during the school year that we would need to pay attention to. And also, with the new George Mason High School moving from the old building to the new, we had anticipated and continue to anticipate 2 days for the staff on roughly one day in December and then January 4th, which would be the first day after the new year in January of 2021, giving those days, much like we did at Mount Daniel, to teachers to be able to move. So those are 2 more instructional days at the secondary level that could be lost because of that move. So those are some things that we've started to think about that would be drivers. And then we would also like to discuss any available research that's out there that contemplates starting earlier, whether it's year-round schooling research, whether it's around just information that we might be able to glean from our colleagues around the region and the like. So then once we've done that in October, then we'd like to host a community outreach meeting, and that would be the 7th of November. And at that meeting, what we would do is we would invite the community at 6:30 at George Mason High School, and we would ask the community for input. What other drivers should we consider as part of the decision-making process around the calendar? We would have another regular meeting in November for public comment. There would be a November work session, and that would be the 19th. And that 19th date would be a day that we would share with you 3 draft calendars. One, I think it would be 3. I don't know if it would be 3, to be honest, because we haven't done any of this yet. But I would anticipate that one of the calendars that we would share would be a post-Labor Day start, and then maybe one that would be a week early and another that might be 2 weeks early before Labor Day, to give to you to kind of look at and to give us some feedback on. And then what we would like to do is gather your feedback, make the tweaks and adjustments as necessary, and then we'd like to send a survey out to the community. And that survey administration would happen from November 25th to December 8th. And during that period of time, the survey would have the options. And we wouldn't ask people to vote, but we would ask people to give us feedback, and then potentially, if there were 3, to rank order. Which do you like most? Which do you like second most? Which do you like third most? Also, during that administration window, we would like to host another community feedback forum where we would be able to answer questions around the 3 options that are out there. So if someone were struggling with being able to answer the survey because they didn't quite understand the calendars, we'd like to host a meeting on that December 3rd to provide feedback to the community at George Mason High School about it. Then in December, you all would come back at the 10th meeting. We would share the survey data with you publicly at that meeting. There would also be an opportunity for the community to weigh in at public comment again. And then on December 17th, we would have 2 meetings. We'd have a work session first. We would update you on the drivers again. We would again review the data from the survey. We would then ask you to move into a regular special meeting on December 17th, and at that point, allow for public comment and then decision-making around the calendar. So that is the overarching plan. John has been helping us with the communication behind it and can talk a little bit more about sort of how will we get the information out, because we think that communication is going to be really important. So, Mr. Brett.
Can you advance me more?
I can.
There we go. All right. I put together a rubric-looking document that basically summarizes what Dr. Noonan has just discussed. And it's color-coded it so that you can hopefully at a glance get a real feel for the amount of information that we're pushing out and also the amount of information we are taking in. And I've color-coded it yellow as information that we are sending. Public comment will be in green, and the survey you'll see in blue. And the very top line is in gray because it's already been completed, and that is we've created a section of our website called, and I have a typo there, it should be 2020 school start date. It is happening next year, not the year after. And we've included in that already a draft calendar as has been spelled out, not in stone. We're going to add frequently asked questions based on the information that we're gathering from you tonight, and information that we will be getting also emailed to us from an email address that we've set up called calendar@fccps.org. We already have 7 emails on that account this evening. And then the research that has been talked about, we'll also add that to the website. What we hope to do is to be as sensitive to our stakeholders and our population, both employed by Falls Church City Schools, those who live here and send their children to us. We want to be as sensitive to them about this topic as we are about the budget process and keeping them informed of that back in the day. So primarily, the yellow you see there, if you skip down one more page, you'll see the ad hoc calendar committee, and then there's the public hearing, the green at the regular meeting, and then the work session when you'll be discussing some more of the information that we have provided to you. And after that meeting, again, another 3 or 4 lines of just pushed out communications that taking all the information we gathered from that work session and parse it out to the public in video, in the presentation packs, and all the information that we can try to add it to the website so that, again, if you want to know the latest, greatest, you've got your one-stop shopping there. And if you can go again, after that meeting, everything turns green because this is now when our division turns into a listening mode. We have the first of 2 community outreach meetings, and we have the regular meeting, and then you have your work session, and then we start the survey. It goes for 2 solid weeks. The dates are wrong on that. As Dr. Noonan had them right, the 25th and the 8th. It's 2 solid weeks, though. And then we come back for the second community outreach meeting, another regular school board meeting with more public input, and then the final meeting on the 17th with a final public hearing and your decision on the calendar. So again, it looks like it is a lot, and we've got 3 months to tackle this topic, and we'll do our best to try to keep the public as informed as we can as we roll through this process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing looking at this that I might build out a little bit more is the ad hoc committee's meetings and role in this, because that doesn't, they don't show up until, except there's the first blind saying they're gonna come into existence, but I assume they'll be doing stuff and people will probably wanna know about that.
Absolutely. As we add more things to the calendar, those will also be included. The ad hoc committee meetings obviously are open meetings.
So first and foremost, if I could just get some feedback from all of you, does this plan make sense? Does the timing make sense? And do you feel like it gives enough information from the community? And then I've got another question after that, if that's okay.
I think it gives plenty of information from the community. I think it gives a ton of opportunity. My only thought with the whole process is I feel like people are going to feel like this is a question, do we always start before Labor Day or not? And it seems like given the dates in the coming year, it's probably going to make sense to start before Labor Day, and maybe another year it won't. So I think we just need to be clear that this is, you know, that there will be flexibility in coming years.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few issues. It might be good to reach out to other schools in the IB community outside of Virginia to see what their experience is with respect to IB, given IB's got its own calendar and what their experience is. I think one of the values you referenced, Dr. Noonan, was June 15th end date. With this additional flexibility, is that a value we would want to potentially reconsider? And maybe it's a June 7th, or maybe it's a June 1st end date as the new value. Because it seems to me, one of the questions we should also ask the community is, there's a choice. It's kind of like cheap, fast, and good. You get to choose two out of the three. I think here, it's after Labor Day, 2-week holiday break, and a June-ish, a reasonable June-ish termination, and you get to choose two. So what are people's values about that? And maybe get some explicit consideration of that. I think another question is, do we want to make this decision about Labor Day and then build some calendars? I think 3 calendar options without making that decision might be too few. You might want to have 2 pre-Labor Day calendars and 2 post-Labor Day calendars so that people get a fuller picture of all that. So that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. I also think the approach is exhaustive and very good. I have a few questions and comments. One, I thought Mr. Brett might have said that there'd be a sample calendar that would go up soon. I might have misunderstood you, but I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would wait to have sample calendars until you have multiple options so that we don't have people feeling like it's a predetermined analysis, which it isn't.
And to be super clear, it's not at all. We haven't developed any calendars, so.
The second comment, I don't think there's anything to do about this. I will say the survey feels a little late to me because it comes back in, just really 1 week before the decision is to be made. But I get that there's a lot of communication and preparation and discussion that needs to be done before the survey goes out. So that's just a general feeling that I'd rather have longer with the survey if it's possible, but that may not be possible. The last thing, and this goes on one of the points that Mr. Castillo brought up, I would suggest that we get as much quantitative information as possible. So I think IB is a part of it, but effect on AP test scores or SOL results is another. So that may not be possible. There may not, but again, you might be able to do a regression around different factors that would contribute to it. And I think when we get to the end of the process, we as a board want to be very clear about the reasons we're making the decision, whether it's to start after Labor Day or before. And certainly if we want to start before Labor Day, I don't think we ought to be in the position of saying, and it may improve test scores with a lot of hand waving. Either we're going to say we believe it will, and we've got data to back it up, or we won't, or we want to start early so we can leave earlier, or we want to start earlier because in an IB school program and with standards-based grading, we think we need to have a lot more planning time for teachers. I just think we need to be really clear about what the reason is, and if it is based on academic performance, we should shoot for our absolute best to have the data to back that up.
So this is 1920, so we're doing 2021. So the high school move-in is part of this. So I would study hard the experience of the Mount Daniel move-in and really focus on that period and how much time we need to do that. And maybe this will be a sort of one-off exercise because of that, but I think that's going to be a huge factor. I really would want to be generous with the amount of time available then.
I also think this schedule is a good one, and would like to echo Mr. Rattinger's of potentially looking to see if we can do the survey portion of it a little sooner so we can get that information and give folks enough opportunity to take part in that as we can. I think having a couple of options when we get to that point of pre and post Labor Day, I think is going to be good to